Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel, Homeopathy Super Session by Dr. Jagos. Today we'll see chapter 28, Syphilis, the last part, that is the part 2, and now syphilis will be concluded. Now we have to consider the chemical affinity of certain elements to the disease taint, in other words, its homeopathicity. So in this chapter, Robert says that the chemical affinity of certain elements to the disease taint has to be ascertained, that is its homeopathicity. So let us see how this can be done. Is sulfur the remedy that almost clearly typifies the soric classification? So Robert says that sulfur is the remedy which has marked soric symptoms or the soric miasm or the soric classification. On the other hand, mercury is the closest remedy synonym for the syphilitic classification or the syphilitic miasm. So mercury has predominantly syphilitic symptoms. Sulfur has predominantly soric symptoms. We find mercury in the higher range of elements. In fact, from osmium atomic weight 76 onwards, we may consider the proven range of the anti-syphilitic. So now he said that we find mercury in the higher range of the elements because of its destructive nature. So all the elements which are more destructive, they come higher up in the atomic weight. And they may be considered to prove the range of antisyphilitic medicines. Reference to the homeopathic materia medica will give us a clean outline of the symptomatology of osmium, iridium, platinum, aurum, mercury, plumbum, bismuth, radium, and uranium. So he says that the reference to the homeopathic materia medica will give out a clear outline of the symptomatology of these various materials. We have not sufficient provings of some of the other elements in this range. So he says that no doubt the symptomatology is there, but the proving is not sufficient for some remedies. But we often find that some of the remedies indicated in these conditions that come in the lower or the constructive register. So Robert is saying that from all these elements here, some of them come under the lower or the constructive register. So how are we to account for this? Because as Robert has told you that all the soric symptoms will come under the low atomic weight, all the syphilitic symptoms or remedies will come under the higher atomic weight. But all of them out here are generally syphilitic, but therefore he says that some of them come in the low atomic weight. So how do you account for this? Michelin, Thornton, and Lawrence of the University of California reported before the National Academy of Science in 1935 that they had developed a process whereby certain of the lower elements had been made more radioactive. So these great personalities have said that they have found out a method whereby the low atomic weight elements can become more radioactive. This end was accomplished by breaking through the enormous high energy barriers that surround the nucleus of the atom. So this was done by inventing a process of breaking the high nuclear energy barrier that surrounds the nucleus of the atom. For this purpose, they employed a special apparatus perfected for the purpose with a very low amperage and very high voltage. So the apparatus was there with a low amperage but a high voltage. Copper and sodium chloride were both made artificially radioactive, and the sodium chloride remains radioactive in solution even when injected into the tissue. So by this process, they made copper and sodium chloride both radioactive, and when sodium chloride remained radioactive, even in the solution when it was injected in the tissues. They were quoted as stating further, a single drop of water contains enough energy to supply 200 horsepower continuously for a year. But at present, it takes more energy to break into the atom that is released. When this ratio can be reversed, atomic energy will be available. So they say furthermore that a single drop of water contains enough energy to supply 200 horsepower continuously for a year. But he says that it takes much more energy to break into the atom and to release its energy. When this ratio can be reversed, atomic energy will be available. McLean says of the more common and lighter elements, such as sodium, for instance, man can probably learn to disintegrate them, but he will always do so by the sweat of the brow. So he says that, McLean says that the lighter elements such as sodium, you can disintegrate them, but it will be a very tedious task and you have to sweat a lot for that to disintegrate it. Here again, we see the radioactivity and disintegration are common through, and this applies equally to the syphilitic stigma. So out here he says that this radioactivity and disintegration, which is a common phenomena, can be also applied to the syphilitic stigmata. So he's compared the syphilitic stigmata with the radioactivity and disintegration. We frequently find a patient susceptible to the action of natrium mur in potentized form. So when natrium mur is potentized, its latent inherent powers come into play, and we see it, and we can see the action on the patient susceptibility. That is the form in which energies have been released by applied force in the form of succussion. So natrium mur, which was inert in the crude state, after the process of succussion, it has become potentized and it gives out its energy. Further, the patient has taken repeatedly and frequently of salt in the diet, which has no appreciable vital effect. Furthermore, Robert says that the patient could have taken excess of salt in the diet, but this has no vital effect because it is not potentized, or its energy is not being released. Yet, in the attack by force and motion upon the construction of sodium atom, these energies have been released so that the substance is changed in its very essential. So Robert says that by the continued attack of force and motion upon the construction of the sodium atom, the energies have been released by the peculiar process of succussion. It takes only one and retains an artificial radioactivity, which activates it for a considerable period of time. So it takes on and retains an artificial radioactivity. So it says that with this process of succussion, an artificial type of radioactivity is activated, or the energy is activated, which is there for a considerable period of time. So is the case with many other substances seemingly inert in their natural state, which take on activity under the homeopathic potentization. So Robert says that not only of sodium chloride of salt, but there are many other substances which are inert in their natural state, but with homeopathic potentization, their artificial radioactivity can be activated. So that's all. So we end the syphilitic stigmata or the syphilitic miasm. So I hope I made it very simple for you to understand all the miasm, sora, syphilis, psychosis, as well as the tubercular miasm. So please be tuned. Stay tuned for more of my channel. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. To date, it has up to 183 videos. And also I'm bringing out a book soon, next month, on miasms, which is a very simplified, comprehensive book, which is easy to understand, and especially for the examinations, written in point form, very short and sweet. And I will be bringing that out soon. National Book Depot of Parel will be distributing this book. Thank you for your patient hearing.